Okay. Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. So from today onwards, we'll be combining the lecture A and B together. So we'll learn together. So last time actually for the B division, we actually went to the fifth lecture, but for A division, we haven't finished the fourth lecture. So what we'll do is that we'll cover up the fourth lecture of this unit number 2, and then we'll move towards the fifth lecture of this unit number 2. So let us start with the deep learning. So as we know that deep learning, I have explained you that there is an input layer neuron, there is an input neuron, and there is an output neuron. And in between this input and output neurons, there are number of neurons, billions of neurons which are connected with each other. So what is going to happen is, that the information is passed from input layer to the output layer. So whatever input is given, accordingly the output layer is predicted. So in between we have number of neurons in the form of hidden layer structures. So there are number of millions of neurons which will be working and which will be working on the input neuron, and accordingly the output layer will be predicted. These are the different layers of the neuron network. Then how this neural network is composed? It is composed of input layer, then the hidden layer, and the output layer, all which are composed of nodes. This input layer is taken into a numerical representation of a data that may be image with pixel specifications, and the output layer output predicts predictions, while hidden layers are correlated with most of the computation. So here from the formula we can see that there is an x0, x1, and x2. These are the inputs that are given to the actuation function, which consists of wi xi plus b. Now this activation function will give the output layer. That means it will give the output prediction according to the hidden layers which are mostly computed. So what is going to happen, that input is given to this activation function, accordingly the output is generated. Now what this wi plus b means? Actually w is nothing but the weight, xi is nothing but the inputs, and b is nothing but the bias. Now this weight, input, and plus bias, this is going to decide actually whether the prediction is accurate or not. So if the predict is not accurate, that means you can go back and change the weight value as well as bias value, and then you can check out whether the error is less or not. So this is done with the help of this input, hidden, and output layer, which is given in the form of x0, x1, x2 summation of wi xi plus b, which will give an predicted output. Now what is actually happening is information is passed between the network layer through the function. So as shown in the figure which I have shown, the major points is to keep a note that a tunable weight and bias parameters has to be done, that is w and b respectively in the function. So that weight and bias, that is wi and b, are tunable. So you can tune w as well as b respectively in the function below. These are essential to the actual learning process of deep learning algorithm. After the neural network passes its input all the way to its output, the network, after the neural network passes its input all the way to its output, the network evaluates how good its prediction was through something called as loss function. So I've already said that what is going to happen here is that the information is passed from the input to the output and through the hidden layer structures. Now, as it is actually a learning process, so the output is going to be predicted. Now, what is going to happen if the prediction is correct or not? We have to check it. So how we are going to check? By by considering that what is the expected and what is the predicted output. So if the expected and predicted output, the difference between them is less, that means the loss function is less. If the prediction and expected output difference is more, that means the loss function is more. So what is going to happen is that we can come to know whether how much loss has been there. So the accuracy of the prediction we can be calculated with the help of loss function. So let us assume that we can calculate a loss function through a function called as mean squared error. So we are going to calculate this mean squared error. So in this mean squared error, that is 1 by n is nothing but represents the sample count, summation from I to n, that is the sample. Then yi minus y cap of I square. So what is yi? It's an expected output, whereas y cap is nothing but the predicted output. So if the difference between these two predicted outputs is lesser, the loss will be less. And if the difference between these two will be more, the loss will be more. So that means a mean, if a mean is used if the batches of inputs and outputs are used simultaneously, where n is the sample count. So in this way, you can check out through the mean squared error loss function whether your prediction is correct or not, or whether the prediction as well as expected output is same or not. That we can check out with the help of this loss function. The goal of the network is ultimately to minimize the loss by adjusting the weight and bias. Okay, so mostly what we are going to do is that when the input is passed through the activation function, the activation function is having weight as well as bias. So these weight and bias are tunable. That means what? We can tune them. That means what? If the output prediction is having more error, right? The loss function is more. So what we can do is that we can go back and again check tune the weights as well as biases of the network. So how we can do this? It can be done through a back propagation method. This back propagation method is through gradient descent. The network backtracks through all its layers to update the weights and biases of every node in the opposite direction of the loss function. In the other words, every iteration of back propagation should result in smaller loss. तो हम क्या करते हैं, पीछे की तरफ से बैक प्रोपोगेशन कर कर जो आपका लॉस फंक्शन निकला है, सपोज लॉस फंक्शन है काफी ज्यादा लॉस फंक्शन है, तो हम क्या करेंगे, बैक प्रोपोगेशन से पीछे की तरफ जाएंगे, दैट इज अपोजिट टू द लॉस फंक्शन, एंड वेयर वी कैन tune the weight, where you can adjust the weight as well as bias value in such a way that the output prediction and the expected value will have lesser difference. That means the loss will be less. That means smaller loss function can be considered, that is before. So without going into the proof, the continuous updates of the weights and biases of the network ultimately turns into a precise function approximator. तो आप वेट और बायस को इतना एडजस्ट करते जाते हैं कि आपको जो लॉस फंक्शन है वो छोटा छोटा होता जाता है, यानी कि वी मूव टुवर्ड्स अ स्मॉलर लॉस फंक्शन देन बिफोर. This approximate function or the function approximator is also gives the relationship between the inputs and the expected output. So it also will help you to find out the relation between the inputs and the expected output. Now, why the deep learning may? What is the meaning of the deep? So the deep part of the deep learning refers to creating a deep neural network. This means that it will be having the large amount of hidden layers. That means it will be having large number of weights and biases. That means you can be able to tune and weights and biases and adjust the value in such a way that your loss function will be minimized. That is what we have to do with this. And that's why the deep part actually means having large number of hidden layers. And these hidden layers will be having weights and biases. So by adjusting the weights and biases, we can improve the ability of the function. We can improve the ability of the function and we can minimize the loss error. So we can minimize the loss error means what? We are going to minimize the difference between the predicted and expected value. So with addition of more weights and biases, the neural network improves its ability to approximate more complex function. It can also work on more complex function if you're going with deep part of the deep learning. So that is why it is called as the deep learning. Now, difference between deep learning and machine learning has to be understood. So let us see that what is the difference between machine learning and deep learning. So if you could visualize again, the figure which I have given you was like there is a big circle in which an artificial intelligence is there. Then we have a machine learning in the second circle, and in between the smaller circle was with a deep learning. So the journey from deep learning to artificial intelligence we have seen through that figure. So what actually happens is that we have been building up the artificial neural network and we are moving towards the human intelligence. So that is the journey from deep learning to artificial intelligence that could be broadly explained through that figure. So what is happening is deep learning is a method of a machine learning. So obviously it is a concern with with the machine learning, as it is one of the method of machine learning. So we are going to see what is the difference between deep learning and machine learning. So first point is a machine learning uses the algorithms or data. It learns from the data and makes the decision accordingly what he has learned. Whereas deep learning algorithm creates an artificial neural network and learns from it to make an intelligent decisions on its own. That is what the difference is. So इसमें क्या है, सब कुछ डेटा बेस्ड है, डेटा ड्रिवन है, जैसे मैंने बताया था. और इसमें क्या है, it is based on the structured algorithm, that is an artificial neural network. So it will learn from that and will make decision on its own. This is the first difference. Second is that machine learning works on a small data size for accuracy, whereas deep learning can work on a large data set. Machine learning is dependent on low-end machine, whereas it is heavily dependent on high-end machine. Now, low-end machine, that means CPU. It's a central processing unit you can work on. You can work the algorithm on it. But heavily dependent on high-end machine means it requires somewhat more configuration of the processes. More configuration of the processes required to run these deep learning algorithms. Machine learning divides the task into subtasks and then solves them individually and then finally combines into the result. यानी कि वो टास्क को सब टास्क में डिवाइड करता है और देखता है कि कैसे हर एक सब टास्क ऑपरेट हो रहा है और वो एग्जीक्यूट हो रहा है और एंड में सारा रिजल्ट कंबाइन करता है. Whereas deep learning solves the problem from end to end, शुरुआत से लेकर आखिर तक का काम करता है deep learning. Then machine learning takes less time to train, whereas deep learning takes longer time to train. This is the because why this is because machine learning normally works on a small amount of data set, whereas deep learning works on a very high amount of data set, and that's why the training period or training time is less in machine learning and more in deep learning. Then it trains on CPU and trains on GPU for proper training. So I have already said that high end and in the third number line, low end machine and high end machine. So this CPU is a low end machine and GPU is a high end machine. So high end machine is a GPU, that is nothing but the graphical processing unit. So obviously the result, if you're going to run the deep learning on CPU, it will take large amount of time, whereas deep learning can easily be carried out on GPUs. So you have to take care that whatever the algorithm you're going to run on of machine learning or deep learning, your configuration or your platform has to be good enough to run that algorithm. So take care that machine learning can easily run on CPU, whereas deep learning you require GPU. Then in CPU, in machine learning, the testing time may increase, whereas less time to test the data. So यहाँ पर deep learning में training time ज़्यादा होता है, testing time less लगता है, और machine learning में testing time may increase. Then machine learning is about computers being able to think and act with less human intervention. जबकि deep learning is about the computer learning to think using structured model on human brain. So obviously it is based on structured model and it is based on computers being able to think. Machine learning requires less computing power, whereas deep learning needs less ongoing human intervention. So obviously ये दोनों के बीच का difference है कि यहाँ पर less computing power लगता है, यहाँ पर मोर कंप्यूटिंग पावर लगता है. मगर मोर कंप्यूटिंग पावर लगने की वजह से ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशंस बहुत कम होते हैं. कहाँ पर? डीप लर्निंग के अंदर. मशीन लर्निंग कांट इजीली एनालाइज इमेजेस, वीडियोस एंड अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड डेटा, मगर डीप लर्निंग में वैसा नहीं होता है. You can easily analyze images, videos, and unstructured data. Limited tuning capability for hyperparameter tuning and can be tuned in various ways. Machine learning program tends to be less complex than deep learning, obviously, as it is, and it learns from the data, so it is less complex. But it learns, it has a huge amount of data and has a structured kind of structured way, that is the artificial neural network, and henceforth it requires more powerful hardware and resources. Machine learning system can be set up very quickly and but may be limited in power of the results. But deep learning will take more time for setup and generate results instantaneously. Machine learning tends to require structured data and use traditional algorithms, whereas deep learning employs neural network and built accommodate large volume of unstructured data. So machine learning के लिए structured data बहुत जरूरी है और वो traditional algorithm लगाता है. Whereas deep learning ये structured unstructured data पे भी काम करता है और ये employ करता है neural network, and hence it can work on massive amount of data. In machine learning, the output is in the numerical form for classification and scoring applications, whereas the output can be in the form of free form of elements. Machine learning is already in used in such as detecting the spam, that is an email inbox, then banks, doctor's office, whereas deep learning technology enables more complex and autonomous programs like self-driving cars or robots that perform advanced surgery. So deep learning अभी मतलब शुरू हुआ है, जबकि machine learning अब तकरीबन खत्म हो गया है. सो वी कैन सी दैट कि मशीन लर्निंग के अंदर हम एक छोटा सा पार्ट ढूंढ रहे हैं जिसको हम डीप लर्निंग बोल रहे हैं, बिकॉज डीप लर्निंग इज अ मेथड ऑफ मशीन लर्निंग. सो खत्म हो गया ऐसा नहीं बोल सकेंगे, लेकिन वी कैन से दैट डीप लर्निंग इज गोइंग टू बी going more and more deeper in order to solve the complex algorithms, can you work on a huge database, can work on an unstructured type of database. So it can be useful for different applications like self-driving cars, robots that performs advanced surgery. So अभी फिलहाल जो है वो रोबोट्स पे बहुत काम चल रहा है, तो जिसमें मशीन लर्निंग, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, डीप लर्निंग, आईओटी, ये सारा यूज हो रहा है रोबोट्स के अंदर. इवन सेंसर्स, जो कि बहुत सारे sensors, in thousands of sensors are used in robots, and robots are nowadays been trained, is used in medical field also, so that they can make perform advanced surgery. So not only normal surgery but the advanced surgery that is possible with deep learning. Then the machine learning requires less data than deep learning to function properly, and deep learning requires much more data than traditional machine learning algorithm to function properly due to complex multi-layer structure. So obviously कम डेटा रहा तो आप मशीन लर्निंग को इस्तेमाल करो, और अगर ज्यादा डेटा रहा तो आप डीप लर्निंग के लिए जाओ. एक सीधी सी बात है. Because see, you have to decide according to the application where my application fits, whether it fits in machine learning, whether it fits in deep learning. So if your algorithm is complex, you should go with deep learning. If you have a massive amount of data, you can go for deep learning. If your data is unstructured, go for deep learning. If your data is in a structured form, you can go with the machine learning. So all depends upon what kind of data you have, what you want. Accordingly, you can choose machine learning or deep learning. So this is the figure which shows difference between machine learning and deep learning. So you can exactly track how the process goes on. So in machine learning, suppose there is an input image, which is a car. So the feature is extracted first. So you know how the feature is extracted. So you have to go with the feature types. Then you go for the feature construction. Then you go for the feature transformation, and then you go for the feature selection. So the features are extracted and selected, and then it is classified accordingly. So when the classification is done, it will classify it as yes or no, because classification is giving an discrete output. That is why y is a discrete. That means yes or no, 1 or 0. So it will say whether it is car or not. If it is a car, it will show car. If it is not a car, it will show it is not a car. So accordingly, the machine learning will work out. Now, in case of deep learning, if you see that the feature extraction and classification part are combined together in deep learning. So when the input is directly given to your algorithm, which will be combinedly working as a feature extraction and classification, and the output will be directly as an output as a car or not car. So I want to say that deep learning, what is going to happen in feature extraction and classification, you can find that from the input neuron to the output neuron, you will be having billions of neurons working together. So information is passed from the input neuron and which will reach to the output neuron. At that time, the decision has taken whether car is the image a car or not a car. So depending upon that, the output will be generated. So this is what the difference between machine learning and deep learning is about. So in this lecture, we have seen what is deep learning. We have seen how deep learning and machine learning varies from each other. We have seen what is the difference between deep learning and machine learning and how this deep learning works out to be. So this is the basic figure which you have to understand, that input is given to an activation function and then the output is predicted, which is nothing but a neural network, which is a single neural network composed of input, hidden layers and output layers. And the hidden layers are correlated with most of the computation. So this is how we have understood deep learning and machine learning. Now we'll move on to the next lecture. Just a moment. Okay, so the screen visible. Hello, the screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so we'll move to the next part. Now we have cop up with both A as well as B division. So now the syllabus is equal. Now we'll move towards, this is quite an interesting thing what we are going to study in this lecture. We are moving towards the sum of the supervised as well as unsupervised learning concepts. So सबसे पहले हम अनसुपरवाइज, मैंने जैसे बताया था कि अनसुपरवाइज में कौन कौन से है, फॉर एग्जांपल क्लस्टरिंग है, एसोसिएशन है, उसके बाद मैंने बताया था प्रिंसिपल कंपोनेंट एनालिसिस है, ये सब चीजें अनसुपरवाइज में आती है। और सुपरवाइज में क्या क्या आता है, जैसे के एन एन है, देन उसके बाद आपका आएगा नेव बेस आएगा, उसके बाद लॉजिस्टिक रिग्रेशंस आएगा। सो ये जो टाइप्स है मैंने उस वक्त आपको बताए थे जब हमने देखा था कि सुपरवाइज्ड मशीन लर्निंग एल्गोरिदम्स के अंदर क्लासिफिकेशन और रिग्रेशंस होते हैं, और अनसुपरवाइज्ड मशीन लर्निंग के अंदर, अनसुपरवाइज्ड मशीन लर्निंग के अंदर हमने देखा कि क्लस्टरिंग होता है और दी एसोसिएशन रूल होते हैं। सो अब हम जो अल्गोरिदम्स देखने वाले हैं वो अनसुपरवाइज्ड के अंदर है। सो अनसुपरवाइज्ड में हम के मींस क्लस्टरिंग देखेंगे, उसके बाद हम प्रिंसिपल कंपोनेंट एनालिसिस देखेंगे, और उसके बाद हम ANN देखेंगे जिसको हम बोलते हैं आर्टिफिशियल न्यूरल नेटवर्क। सो आर्टिफिशियल न्यूरल नेटवर्क एक मात्र ऐसा है जो कि सुपरवाइज्ड है प्लस एज वेल एज अनसुपरवाइज्ड भी है। तो लेकिन फिलहाल हम अनसुपरवाइज्ड लर्निंग देखेंगे, और इस अनसुपरवाइज्ड लर्निंग के अंदर हम सबसे पहले देखेंगे के मींस क्लस्टरिंग। Now, what this K means clustering is, it's simple and then I will explain you in an example. इसमें एग्जाम्पल तो है हम जो देखेंगे, लेकिन अगर मैं ऐसा बोलता हूं कि देर आर डिफरेंट कस्टमर्स, नाउ लेट अस अज्यूम दैट देर आर डिफरेंट कस्टमर्स, सो व्हाट आई विल डू इज दैट कि आई विल फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आइडेंटिफाई दोज कस्टमर्स which are buying bread. Okay, I'll identify those customers which are buying bread. Then I'll identify those customers which are buying electric appliances, and then I'll identify those customers which are buying some electrical goods. So now all these three are individually different, they are dissimilar from each other, but inside that cluster they are similar, they are having similar features, right? So what I'll do is that I'll form three clusters. So the first cluster will be of those peoples who are fond of breads. The second cluster will be fond of electronic appliances, and third cluster will be fond of electrical appliances. Now these clusters will be formed, and accordingly the things will be predicted. So the prediction will be done in such a way that you can apply an association rule also for them. But beyond association rule, we can form the cluster and we can predict the output accordingly. So this could be very much useful in marketing analysis. This is best way in using in marketing analysis. So let us assume that we are going to find out a k-mean clustering. So it is nothing but popularly and used as an unsupervised machine learning algorithm for clustering analysis. It is a non-deterministic and iterative method. Obviously iterative methods यानी कि वो जब तक करता जाता है जब तक वो perfect prediction देता नहीं है. It is based on intuition of pattern recognition on n-dimensional feature space geometry. इंट्यूशन ऑफ पैटर्न रिकॉग्नाइजेशन यानी कि वो पैटर्न ढूंढने की कोशिश करता है कि भाई जो कुछ लोग ब्रेड बाय कर रहे हैं उनका पैटर्न क्या है, जो लोग इलेक्ट्रॉनिक अप्लायंसेस बाय कर रहे हैं उनका पैटर्न क्या है. सो ही इज गोइंग टू सर्च आउट दोज पैटर्न्स ऑन एन एन डायमेंशनल फीचर स्पेस ज्योमेट्री. In n-dimensional feature space geometry, each and every data instances is visualized as a data points in n dimension, in which n dimensions are nothing but n features. The algorithm operates on a given data set through a predefined number of clusters. Obviously जब बहुत सारा डेटा मेरे पास आ जाता है और मैं उसको उसमें क्लस्टर्स में डिफाइन करता हूं, तो मुझे नंबर ऑफ क्लस्टर्स पहले तय करने पड़ेंगे कि हाउ मेनी क्लस्टर्स आई एम गोइंग टू हैव. So that cluster will be given by the value of k, and henceforth it is called as a k clusters. The output of k-means algorithm is k clusters with input data partitioned among the cluster. So पूरा जो input data है वो clusters के form में divide होगा. These clusters will be having their own features, whereas they will be different from each other. इस तरह से वो बनेंगे. अभी मैं एक एग्जांपल लूंगा. This is the best example to understand how k-mean clustering is happening. Suppose you are going on a Wikipedia search and there you search a word called a Jaguar. ओके तो अभी जगौर तो कई जगहों पर है. जगौर कार भी है, जगौर एक ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम भी है, जगौर एक एनिमल भी है. तो अभी जब मैं जगौर वर्ड डालता हूं गूगल में, तो वो बहुत सारे पेजेस देगा अलग अलग किस्म के, है ना. सो इट विल रिटन ऑल द पेजेस कंटेनिंग द वर्ड जगौर. तो फिर क्या हो गया, जगौर एज अ कार आ गया, जगौर एज अ मैकओएस ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम आ गया, जगौर एज एन एनिमल आ गया. तो अभी इतने सारी चीजें आ गई है मैंने सर्च करने के बाद जगौर वर्ड डालते ही. K-mean clustering algorithm can be applied to the group of web pages that talk about the similar concept. So इसका मतलब जगौर तो वर्ड एक है लेकिन उसको अलग अलग तरीके से अलग अलग जगहों पर है वो. So the algorithm will group all the web pages that talk about the jaguar as animal into one cluster, jaguar as a car in another cluster, and jaguar as an operating system in another cluster. So actually हमने क्या किया है, एक ही वर्ड के बहुत सारे मीनिंग्स है और वो अलग अलग मीनिंग्स को क्लस्टर में कन्वर्ट कर दिया. दिस इज व्हाट के मीन क्लस्टर इज. फॉर न्यू इनकमिंग डेटा द डेटा पॉइंट इज क्लासिफाइड अकॉर्डिंग टू इट्स प्रॉक्सिमिटी ऑफ द नियर बाय क्लास. तो फिर एक और बंदा आ जाता है, नया बंदा, ठीक है. जगौर में एक और आ गया. सपोज जगौर एक कार भी है तो वो कार को सर्च मारेगा जगौर के अंदर, और अगर वो जगौर कार ही है तो वो उसको उसमें उस क्लास में ले लेगा, नहीं होगा तो फिर वो नहीं लेगा. Data points inside a cluster will exhibit similar characteristics, while others clusters will have different properties. Obviously, cluster के अंदर जो चीजें है वो सब सिमिलर होगी, लेकिन क्लस्टर के बाहर की जो चीजें है वो सब डिसिमिलर होगी. ओके. The basic example of clustering would be grouping same kind of customers in certain class of any kind of marketing campaign. मैंने exactly आपको जो example बताया था कि एक बंदा electrical appliances buy करता है, एक electronic appliances buy करता है, एक bread buy करता है, तो accordingly मार्केटिंग कैंपेन के लिए इन तीनों को के बीच में एसोसिएशन भी निकाला जा सकता है और क्लस्टरिंग भी की जा सकती है। इट इज अ यूजफुल एल्गोरिदम फॉर डॉक्यूमेंट क्लस्टरिंग। नाउ व्हाट इज द स्टेप्स टू बी फॉलोड फॉर की मेन क्लस्टरिंग? फर्स्ट इज स्पेसिफाई द नंबर ऑफ क्लस्टर्स। तो हमको कितना जो इनपुट डेटा है वो कितने क्लस्टर्स में डिवाइड करना है वो पहले लेना पड़ेगा। रैंडमली सेलेक्ट k data points and assign them to the clusters. Cluster centroid will be calculated subsequently. Keep iterating from 1 to 3 steps until you find optimal centroid, after which values won't change. तो इनके बीच में एक centroid भी निकाला जाएगा। The sum of the squared distances between the centroid and the data point is then computed. Assign each data point to the cluster that is closer to the other cluster and compute the centroid from the cluster by taking the average of all data points in that cluster. So इस तरह से हम 4+3 steps में ये सब काम करेंगे। ये सातों के सातों स्टेप्स के मीन क्लस्टरिंग के लिए यूज होंगे। In this way, the steps that is been followed in k-means algorithm can be studied. We can find the optimal number of clusters k by plotting the value of some squared distances, which decreases gradually to come to the optimal number of k. So k के हिसाब से हम sum squared distance निकालेंगे और जैसे ही हम optimal number of cluster k निकालेंगे तो sum squared distance will decrease gradually and it will come to the optimal number k. उस हिसाब से हम ऑप्टिमल नंबर ऑफ क्लस्टर को प्लॉट कर सकते हैं। Now, what are the advantages of using k-mean clustering in machine learning algorithm, and what are the applications of k-mean clustering? In case of globular clusters, k-mean produces tighter cluster than hierarchical clustering. इसमें क्या होता है, बहुत क्लोजर वाला जो वैल्यू है, सपोज somebody is buying a bread and somebody is buying some bakery products, so is वो क्लोजर जितना जाएगा उसके वो वैल्यू थोड़ा टाइट क्लस्टर्स लिए जाते हैं, यानी कि बहुत ऐसा इधर उधर होता नहीं, बहुत टाइट रहता है वो, एज कंपेयर टू द हायरार्किकल क्लस्टरिंग. Given a smaller value of k, k-mean clustering computes faster than hierarchical clustering for large number of variables. So as compared to the hierarchical clustering, k-mean clustering बहुत fast हो जाता है. हमको hierarchical clustering तो नहीं पढ़ना है, लेकिन it is comparing with the hierarchical clustering. What is an applications of k-mean clustering? They are used in most of the search engines like Yahoo, Google to cluster web pages by similarity and identify the relevance rate of search results. This helps search engines reduces the computational time of the user. So k-mean cluster normally search engines में ज्यादातर यूज होता है जहां पर बहुत सारे सिमिलर वर्ड्स जिनके मीनिंग्स अलग अलग हो उन्हें ढूंढने के लिए cluster of web pages by similarity and identify the relevance rate of the search results can take place. So this is all about k-mean clustering. Remember, we are going to perform practicals on k-mean clustering. So at that time, you should be able to recall what this k-mean clustering is. Next, we are going to move towards ANN, that is artificial neural network. So ये दोनों तरफ जाता है, supervised भी हो सकता है, ये unsupervised भी हो सकता है. So ANN falls in both the categories, in supervised as well as unsupervised. So supervised means labeled data, unsupervised means unlabeled data. Clear cut to remember these things. So now, in order to understand artificial neural network, let us assume that we are having a brain in front of, which is having highly complex and highly complex thing. So human brain is highly complex and a non-linear parallel computer that can organize the structural constitutes, that is neurons interconnected in complex manner between each other. So we have already seen what is artificial neural look like. So there is an input neural, there is an output neural, we have a hidden neurons in between, and this input information passes from input neurons through the hidden layers to the output neurons. So the complexity of the task will increase with increasing number of images. मगर अभी जो information pass होने वाला है वो information अगर बढ़ता जाता है, या यूं कहूं कि number of images in the database बढ़ जाते हैं, तो human brain can recognize it instantly. लेकिन हमारा जो ह्यूमन का ब्रेन है, ह्यूमन ब्रेन है, वो बहुत ही तीक्ष्ण होता है, यानी जिस बंदे को आपने एक बार देख लिया है उसको वो रिकॉल करने के लिए आपको ज्यादा वक्त नहीं लगता, भले ही उसको हमने दूसरी तीसरी बार देखा ही नहीं हो, एक बार देखा हो तो आप इजीली आइडेंटिफाई करते, इतना तेज होता है ह्यूमन ब्रेन। फिर सवाल ये होता है कि ह्यूमन ब्रेन के इतना तेज हमारा कंप्यूटर हो सकता है क्या किसी इमेजेस को आइडेंटिफाई करने के लिए? तो ये बड़ी ताज्जुब की बात सामने आई है कि ह्यूमन ब्रेन जो है वो कंप्यूटर से भी तेज होता है सब कुछ करने में। लेकिन अगर हमने कंप्यूटर की स्पीड ह्यूमन की स्पीड से बढ़ा दी तो भी कंप्यूटर ह्यूमन को कैच नहीं कर सकता। है ना आश्चर्य की बात? This is a quite amazing thing that God has created. Like humans are one of the most beautiful things that God has created, because you know that even if you would like to mimic the brain of a human in some form, it will still not be be as fast as this brain is. So this becomes uh, very easy task for humans to recognize it instantly. Now let us take an example of face recognition. Whenever we meet a person, जैसे मैंने example अभी दिया आपको, वही exactly same किया है. A person who is known can be easily recognized with his name. We may know thousands of people, but the task required to the human brain immediately recognizes the person. Now suppose instead of human brain doing it, if the computer is asked to perform that task, it is not going to be an easy computation for the machine. उतना आसान नहीं होगा जितना human के लिए आसान है. You have to teach the computer that there are images of different people. If you know 10,000 people, then you have to feed 10,000 photographs into the computer. लेकिन ह्यूमन क्या है, फटक जैसे उसको पहचान लेता है. इतने सारे हजारों बंदे भी देख लिए हो तो वो पहचान ही लेता है. Now whenever you meet a person, you capture an image of the person and feed it to the computer. The computer matches the photograph with all 10,000 photographs that you have already fed into the database. यानी उसको हर एक फोटोग्राफ चेक करके देखना पड़ेगा क्या वो यही बंदा है. At the end of the computation, it gives the result with photograph that best resembles the person. वो भी तंतोतंत ते सांगू नाही शकत तरी पण तो resemble शोधेल. और he is going to search what is the resembled image to that. This could take several hours or more depending upon number of images present in the database. So that is why the human brain is one of the top class things God has given to us, which no other animals have. The complexity of the task will increase with increasing number of images, and human brain can recognize it instantly. Can we recognize this instantly using computer? Is that the computer capability that exists in human different from computers? If you consider the processing speed of a silicon IC, it is an order of 10 raised to minus 9. Whereas processing speed of human neuron is 6 times slower than typical IC. देखा क्या? अगर IC की स्पीड इतनी है 10 raised to minus 9 और ह्यूमन की स्पीड उससे 6 गुना कम है, तो भी ह्यूमन ब्रेन इतना कैसे काम कर रहा है? In that case, this is puzzling question. Then how is the processing time of human brain faster than that of computer? Typically, there are 10 million neurons with approximately 60 trillion interconnections inside human brain, but still it processes faster than the computer. This is because the network of neuron in human brain is massively parallel. Now the question is that, is it possible to mimic the massively parallel nature of the human brain using computer software? क्या हम वही किस्म का जो ब्रेन वर्क कर रहा है क्या वो कंप्यूटर में बिठा सकते हैं? It is not that easy. We can do it by putting so many processing units and realizing them in a massively parallel fashion. इतने सारे प्रोसेसर को parallelly काम कराना इतना आसान नहीं है. All that can be done within limitations of interconnections and network of processor. Instead of considering the structure of human brain, its totality, only a smaller part of human brain can be mimicked to do a very specific task. इतना होने के बाद भी ब्रेन का छोटा सा हिस्सा ही इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं हम, उसके जैसा ही बना सकते हैं, वो भी एक स्पेसिफिक टास्क फॉर्म करने के लिए. पूरे ह्यूमन ब्रेन को तो मिमिक करना पॉसिबल नहीं है. We make neurons, but there will be different from biological neurons that is in the human brain. This can be achieved with the help of artificial neural network. By artificial, we inherently mean something that is different from the biological neurons. ANNs are nothing but simulated brain that can be programmed the way we want. By defining the rules of mimic the behavior of human brain, data scientists can solve real world problems that could have never been considered before. Now, how do this artificial neural network algorithm works? So first is, it is a subfield of an artificial intelligence, which is modeled after the brain. It is a computational network consisting of neuron interconnected with each other. This interconnected structure is used making various predictions for both regression and classification. The ANN consists of various layers like input, hidden layer, and output layer. Hidden layer could be more than one. Hidden layer is a place where all the mathematics of neural network take place. जैसे मैंने बताया input neuron, output neuron और बीच में hidden layers. The basic formula of weights and biases are added here along with the application of activation function. These activation functions are responsible for delivering the output in a structured and trimmed manner. It is majorly used for solving nonlinear problems, handwriting recognition, traveling salesman problems, etc. ANN involves complex mathematical calculations and highly computer sensitive in nature. Okay. So this is how we have seen in the first that how this artificial neuron look like. So it is having the inputs x1, x2, x3. Then it is having an weighted, that is W1, W2, and W3. So Wi, Xi. Single neural network is called as perceptron. So अगर एक neural हम ले, एक neural network को ले, तो उसको हम perceptron बोल सकते हैं. Why use artificial neural network? ANN have interconnections of non-linear neurons. Thus, these machine learning algorithms can exploit non-linearity in a distributed manner. They can adapt free parameters to the changes in the surrounding environment, learns from its mistakes, and take better decisions through backpropagation. सबसे खास बात बैक प्रोपोगेशन, यानी कि एरर बढ़ गया तो पीछे जाओ, वेट बदल दो, बायस बदल दो, वापस आ जाओ. वापस तुमको लगा आउटपुट में एरर ज्यादा है, वापस यू गो बैक, चेंज द वेट, चेंज द बायस, and it just means the weight and bias is tunable, and that can be done through the back propagation method. These are the advantages of artificial neural networks. So is it easy to understand for the professional, goes in deep up into math related complex machine learning algorithm? If you're trying to sell a model to an organization which could be better, say ANN or support vector machine, we guess answer obviously is ANN, because you can easily explain to them that they just works like neuron in your brain. They can easily conceptualize, they have the ability to identify all probable interactions between predictor variables, they have the ability to subtle identify complex non-linear relationship that exist between independent and dependent variables, and it is relatively easier to add prior knowledge to the model. So ये है उसके advantages. कुछ disadvantages भी है. It is difficult to reverse engineer ANN. It can learn that the image of a dog is actually a cat, and then it is very difficult to determine why. कि अगर वो डॉग के इमेजेस को कैट के इमेजेस को डॉग बदल दे तो फिर मुश्किल हो जाता है, वाई, ये आंसर क्यों दिया है उसने. All that can be done with continuously tweak or train the ANN further. So artificial neural network are the most probabilistic, meaning if the output of the algorithm is in a continuous number, it is difficult to translate into the probability. They are not magic wands and cannot be applied to solve any kind of machine learning algorithm. So हर एक को नहीं लगा सकते, particular कोई use कर सकते हैं. ANN is a native implementation, are not highly effective at practical problem solving. However, this can be increased using deep learning techniques. Multi-layered ANN algorithm are hard to train and requires tuning a lot of parameters. And these are the applications of ANN. Financial institutions use ANN machine learning algorithm to enhance the performance of evaluating loan applications, bond rating, target marketing, credit scoring. BuzzFeed uses ANN algorithm for image recognition to organize and search videos or photos. Many bomb detectors at US airport uses ANN to analyze airborne trace element and identify the presence of explosive chemicals. Google uses ANN for speech recognition, image recognition, and other pattern recognition. ANNs are used at Google to sniff out spam and more other applications. ANN find great applications in robotic factories for adjusting temperature settings, controlling machineries, and diagnose malfunctions. So this is how we have finished. Yes, any problem, students?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll go to the attendance just a while.